Allow me to introduce my film Oliver. It was the first major film documentary that I made in 1983, right after I returned from Paris, France, where I studied filmmaking. A lot of people would consider Oliver to be my breakaway film because it was the film that gave me some amount of recognition, not only here in the Philippines, but in many parts of the world, mainly in alternative film circuits. The film has been screened in Berlin and screened in New York, Tokyo, Busan, Sydney, and several other places. The year when the film was made, that was 1983, is pretty significant because I took the courage to really make the film Oliver, which defied a lot of conventions at that time. And this was mainly motivated by the killing of Ninoy Aquino at the tarmac at the time. It seemed as if the entire Philippine society was politicized at the time, and we who were in alternative filmmaking took our chance as well and took the courage to hold on to our cameras and weaponized our filmmaking in order to be able to respond to the continued politicization of society at that particular time. So Oliver was really a product of my own personal orientation as a homosexual, growing up in a highly militarized society. One must remember that I grew up during the period of martial law. I was 13 years old when martial law was declared, and I grew up as a homosexual, and that was pretty difficult when there was a lot of kind of discrimination that was going around for somebody who was growing up in Iloilo and later on here in Manila. Even if only through cinema, I was able to express my sentiments by making the film Oliver, because it was really a very open declaration of my views about homosexuality. That was where my intellectual courage could be measured, because nobody just made a film as openly gay and as openly political as Oliver. It was the period of the military regime, and nobody just defied the military just like that. And still, I was able to get away with it because of the medium that I used, which was Super 8. While I was able to make the film in a kind of an underground way, so to speak, the exhibition of it was equally a challenge, because I had to create the film circuit where I could show the film. So definitely I knew I could not show it in malls or in big movie houses, and therefore I started going from school to school and later on from island to island in order to show the film as part of the conscientization that was going on at that time. I did not only make the film to express myself as a homosexual. I was now advocating some kind of an emancipation, even only for myself, of my own gender orientation. So Oliver was pretty much significant, even in the history of the documentary itself, because what was Philippine documentary before Oliver? Mainly, the period of martial law has turned what was blossoming as a serious documentary, which was realistic, mainly in the films of Benedicto Pina and Lamberto Avellana. All of this were washed away when the declaration of martial law happened, because under martial law, the documentary became propaganda. So I grew up in a period wherein I was watching propaganda made by the government information agencies, as well as propaganda even in the big screen. So Oliver's appearance in the filmic firmament, so to speak, was really defying the standard of the documentary as propaganda in the period when it was made. And so I would like to once again mention that one, I think, could measure the intellectual and the cinematic courage that I had to come up with a film language that veered towards realism. In fact, that realism was kind of unwelcome to some people at the time, looking at the film as something that was just out of the ordinary. Imagine seeing somebody with 100 yards of thread, inserting it inside his anus in order to create a spider's web, so to speak, on the dance floor. But I saw it when I first saw Oliver perform that act in a gay bar in Manila. I saw the metaphor of the lives that we were living under martial law and under the military regime. We were weaving our web in and day out, and would there ever be a time when we would be able to break the web? Could we ever escape from the absurd and the sordid realities that we were experiencing during that particular time? And so Oliver was truly a significant production for me, and I guess it's very hard to come up with a similar product after that. However, I would like to think that Oliver was really a contribution, not just in the history of cinema, but also in the history of the anti-military dictatorship that happened during that time.